Well, hello there, political moderates. I've got a native flower garden design just for you. I think political moderates get labeled as undecided, wishy-washy, a hard group to understand, and all this other jibber-jabber. Political moderates do know what they want. They do know what they like. They're not undecided. It's just that they don't completely align with one political group or another. They recognize, probably because moderates are decently well-read people and they pay attention and they listen a lot, good listeners, they pull ideas from a lot of different groups and bring them all together and go, yes, this is good. Well, anyways, I find moderates to be a very agreeable group of people. I find them to be very adaptable, to have a clarity of thought. And so, my political moderates, here is a native flower garden design for you. Now, before I show you the design, I'm going to tell you about the garden conditions you need. That way you can decide whether this is going to work for you at all. And so, it's pretty middle of the road because you're moderate. Sorry. So, partial sun is good. Full sun also is good. For soil type, loam is pretty good, although if you have a little clay or a little sand, that's also fine. And then for soil moisture, medium is best, but medium wet to medium dry will be just fine. Okay, so here's the garden design. It's lovely, right? And so in the front, we have the shortest plants getting taller towards the back, because that makes sense. And as you look at this plan, you can see there's a decent amount of purple in the middle there. And that's because people often see moderates as sort of a combo deal between liberals and conservatives. And so blue and red make purple. But also, if you look on the right and at the bottom, A and D, those plants are red. And then on the left, you got H, which is bluish. And then on the sides, C and E are whitish. And so this is also red, white, and blue. Because even though people have a hard time classifying moderates and putting y'all in a group, in a bin, you are still a part of our country, and a really important part of our country. Probably a part of the country pulling everybody back towards the center just a little bit. Let's not all get so crazy. Okay, so, sorry, was that offensive? Okay, so here at the bottom, let's start with plant A. So plant A is Prairie Smoke. So Prairie Smoke will get to be about 8 inches tall, so relatively short. And it will bloom somewhere in the ballpark of April to June, so this will be one of your first ones to come up. And so the reason I chose Prairie Smoke for moderates is because when you look at it, it's sort of, they call it Prairie Smoke because it sort of looks, when it's all bloomed, it looks sort of smoky and it's sort of hard to kind of distinguish one flower from the next, you know, a little hazy, a little smoky. And they all kind of, when you look at those flowers, they're really pretty and they look sort of swaying, like they sway along. And so I picked this because everyone thinks you can be swayed. They think you're a swing vote. They think you easily shift. You're one of the undecideds. We all have to barrage you with who to vote for. But in truth, you're actually just a hazy mystery to others. They don't get you, moderates. They don't get you. And so I liked this Prairie Smoke for you guys because they all think that you're a hazy voter who can be swung in different directions, but actually it's just that your views are a hazy mystery to people. Sorry, am I having too much fun? Okay, get serious. Okay, let's move up to plant B. Okay, so for plant for plant letter B, I have Bradbury's Monarda. So this gets to be about 2 feet tall. And it will bloom somewhere from June to July. And 2 reasons that I chose this plant. So the first is it is unusual looking. The Monardas in general are unusual looking plants, which I find to be very pretty. But also the fact that it looks a little unusual is because people think of moderates as a little unusual. Like, how can you not be part of a distinct political group? What do you mean moderate? What does that mean? And so I thought this unique looking plant was fitting to moderates being unique. And, moderates are all grouped together, sort of, but each different moderate voter has a different things that they believe in. Do you know what I mean? And so, they all end up getting grouped as moderates, even though they have different political views. And so I always think that's very interesting. And so that's also unique. And so the other reason I picked Bradbury's Monarda is it is a host plant. I mean, most plants are host plants, but it's a host plant for this raspberry moth. And I thought, being a host plant is very important and stable for an ecosystem and a plant and insect community, just like having political moderates mixed in is really stabilizing for our country. And so if you don't know what a host plant is just, we like our beautiful butterflies and moths, but to get a butterfly or a moth, those mama butterflies have to lay their eggs on a leaf, and then those eggs hatch and a little caterpillar comes out and it needs to eat leaves. So then it can make a cocoon and become a butterfly. And so that's what a host plant does, is it hosts caterpillars. And so this one lovely little moth uses Bradbury's Monarda as a host plant. And so that's really important for this moth. If we didn't have Bradbury's Monarda, it makes it harder on this moth, because what are those caterpillars going to eat? And that also means if you see holes in your leaves in your garden, you should celebrate. Be happy. That means caterpillars and insects are using your plants, and that is what you want. Okay, so let's move over to plant C. So plant C over there on the left is white wild indigo. And so white wild indigo will bloom from June to July. And so when I think of this plant, it's the white of it that really made me think of political moderates. Because with white, we associate that with purity. And so I'm thinking of like a purity of thought that moderates have, a clarity of seeing both sides, like conservatives and liberals and the other political parties, right? And seeing kind of the intelligence of the different political parties, the stupidity of the different political parties, and kind of bringing that all into your heads and coming out with a purity of thought on what is really the best and the worst choices for our country. Does that make sense? So the white being like a purity of thought. Okay, now if we jump over to D, up there in the upper right corner. So D is red bee balm. So that's another Monarda didyma. And when I think of that, and the reason I chose that for this moderate garden is, so it's red, going with the red, white, and blue. But also, just like the Bradbury's Monarda, this red bee balm, it looks really unique. I mean, it is so beautiful. I don't know why I don't see it more in people's gardens. It looks so unique. It's such a beautiful, beautiful red. And I think of this too because you're unique. You, political moderate, you're unique. You look cool, and you don't really care. Like, conservatives and liberals and, oh, you should think more like me. And y'all are like, no, I don't need to think more like you. I'm going to go ahead and keep thinking like me, and I'm going to keep reading and listening and adjust my thoughts accordingly. So don't try to push me into a political party. I don't accept your push. Okay, so plant E is in our lower right corner there. And so that is New Jersey tea. So this is kind of a shrub. So that will be around for a while. And it is white. And so I picked it for reasons you've already heard, which is that white being a purity of thought, a clarity of seeing both political parties and seeing what is good and bad in them. Political moderates seem to do that pretty well. New Jersey tea blooms from June to August, and so I find that it covers a large amount of time, and somehow that feels right for political moderates. Like different thought patterns and ideas come and go in a country, but political moderates give us some stability. You know, they're a little bit like, oh, okay, everybody calm down. You're all a little right, you're all a little wrong. And then, again, like so many plants, New Jersey tea is a host plant for another beautiful moth. And so again, host plants bringing stability to a little ecosystem or to your garden area. Okay, so let's move to F. F there is sort of in the middle on the left, and that is tall larkspur. So this will bloom from July to August. And these ones in the middle will get to be about 4 feet tall. And I chose it for 2 reasons. Well, maybe 3. The one is that it's purple. So again, you know, liberal, blue, conservative, red. Purple is sort of a mix there, right? I also chose it because tall larkspur does not like really hot and humid climates. And so when I think about politicians and people getting in really heated debates about various political topics, I think like maybe moderates aren't into it. I don't know. Is that true? You can let me know in the comments, right? But I think maybe moderates aren't into it. And so tall larkspur does not like hot and humid climates, and moderates maybe aren't into these super hot debates. They're like, okay, everyone calm down and chill out. The last reason I have, that's maybe the best one, is that so if you have a little population of tall larkspur, you're going to get a lot of different shades of purple in one little population. And it's not that you have different plants. It's all the same plant. You just get different shades of purple. And so I love that for political moderates because it's like in one population within moderates, but even within our country as a whole, there are a belief in many different ideas. And maybe it's ideas that are even seemingly opposed to each other, but not really when you get into the nuances of it. And just that diversity of thought and opinion and kind of being welcoming to it and realizing that, you know, a diversity of ideas is a great way for a country to really, really prosper. And so tall larkspur having various shades of purple in one population kind of speaks to that. You know what I mean? Okay, so plant G to the right of that larkspur. Plant G is also purple, and this is wild bergamot. So wild bergamot is another Monarda. So I have three Monardas in here for you because they are very unique looking. I can't emphasize that enough. They're so unique. They're very, very cool. They look like Dr. Seuss flowers. Like if you're like, hey, design a flower that looks like weird and cool and unique, like this is a flower Dr. Seuss might design. And so this wild bergamot, I have chosen for that unique look because again, you, political moderate, you are unique, and that's awesome. And also, wild bergamot is often not eaten by deer and groundhogs and rabbits because it has a little bit of a smell to it. It's a delightful smell to us. So when I think of moderates, I think about how much people try to pull you in their direction and make you go their way. And moderates being like, no, that's okay. I mean, we'll listen because we're good listeners. The smell of this plant is a deterrent to predators that would harm it. And moderates kind of deter people who would try to pull them into their political camp. And also, wild bergamot is one of the favorite plants of the rusty-patched bumblebee. So the rusty-patched bumblebee is a bumblebee that is endangered. And so this is one plant that bumblebee does like to feed from. And so this would be protecting things that are endangered, in danger of going extinct. And I think of moderates, like as new ideas come in and out of our culture and our country, I see moderates as a force of stability and like not bringing in every new idea, but not kicking out every old idea, preserving and conserving some things, but letting some things go. Do you know what I mean? And so when I think of an endangered bumblebee that likes this plant, I think of moderates preserving and protecting some ideas and some ways of thinking from disappearing, or helping some ideas and thoughts disappear that are no good. Okay, and lastly, my political moderates, we have I. So I is all the way in the back there, and it can get up to 5 feet tall. I have a handful of favorite native plants, and this last one here is one of my favorites, Meadow Blazing Star. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. So why have I picked this for you? Okay, number one. That purple again, right? Okay, so the purple because it's the combo of red and blue. Okay. I also picked it because it should bloom the latest of all of these plants. So it'll bloom somewhere from August to September. And so it's sort of, it's a beauty that is coming that a lot of people don't see. Do you know what I mean? Because it blooms so late. And I see political moderates as this beautiful group of people with beautiful ideas in their heads that a lot of people are late in seeing and recognizing, right? When you look at my drawing of Meadow Blazing Star, you may notice I have a little bit of orange in there. The plant itself does not have any orange, but monarch butterflies love Meadow Blazing Star. Now, monarch butterflies, those caterpillars cannot eat the leaves on this plant, and they won't lay eggs on this plant. But to feed from this plant, to get nectar from this plant, monarch butterflies love it. In many cases, people who have Meadow Blazing Star say it is hard to find the plant without a monarch butterfly on it. I mean, monarchs really, really love Meadow Blazing Star. And so when I think about monarch butterflies, I think about how it's a species that is in danger. It's in a little bit of trouble, but it is a species that is so emblematic of North America. Do you know what I mean? With this huge, awesome migration pattern that it does. And man, when you see a monarch, you just feel like, oh, I've seen magic. And I just think how beautiful it is to protect that butterfly. And when it blooms, kind of like the Monardas, the blazing stars are a very unique looking flower. They're so beautiful. I cannot emphasize how beautiful they are. And I see political moderates this way. Okay, and so I think I skipped H. So in the upper left there is H, and that is blue sage. So also 5 feet tall, blooms August to September, so a little late. Blue sage is very adaptable. It is unusually clear and beautiful. It has this very clear and beautiful blue color, which is really nice. And when I see this beautiful clear blue, again, I'm just thinking of this clarity of thought and how unusually clear and beautiful the flowers are, and also how adaptable this plant is. If no other plants grow in this garden, blue sage will grow. If you screw everything up, the blue sage will probably grow. It's very adaptable. And I think of political moderates as being adaptable, open, thinking, reading, listening, open to new ideas. And open to new ideas doesn't mean instantly accepting of new ideas. Just open to new ideas, open to old ideas, adaptable, understands how different political parties think. And so that makes moderates also adaptable in different social situations. Do you know what I mean? Okay, political moderates. So that is a native flower garden design just for you, with you in mind. Now, if you can think in your head of other plants that really, really would fit in here, definitely tell me in the comments. I'm really interested to hear. And if I have grouped moderates in a way where you're like, that's not right, girl, tell me about it. I'm very interested. Anyways, I am almost certainly telling you something you already know, but definitely vote. Vote in every election. And even if you think one little vote doesn't matter, maybe on the national scale it does or it doesn't, but certainly in our little local elections, single votes really do matter. Always vote, And, of course, always plant native.